It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, February 21st, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is ready for the Blackhawks. But are the Flyers ready?
I mean, they have to be.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We are at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit fanduel.com/locked on to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you get podcasts. Subscribe and you'll get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, the Flyers were back at it on Tuesday at practice, and Tyson Forster still in the non-contact jersey, but that's okay. And there seems to be more of a consensus opinion that if he's coming back soon, it will be against the Rangers this weekend.
Yeah, it would make sense. They're probably gearing up for that. He's probably still pretty sore. So, yeah, I could see that converging for that.
Yeah, and I think, one of the other interesting things is that we talked a lot yesterday on the show about Olle Lyckell and,
hmm
what his prognosis is as far as his role with the Flyers and the Phantoms and all of that. And he is stuck on the Flyers roster. Like, this would have been the time they would have sent him down if they were going to do that. And they
Yeah.
haven't done it. And, the Phantoms have a 3-game week this week, and he's still with the Flyers. And in practice, there was a line of Scott Lawton with Delorier and Lixel on it. And, he hasn't played, but he's sticking with the team.
Yeah. Again, if he plays, great. If he's going to sit and watch from the press box, you're single handedly killing Lehigh by not having him there. Like, he's so important there. But if you're going to use him, I'll never say a word about it.
Yeah, I seems like against Chicago would be a good opportunity
Yeah.
to put him in the lineup. I certainly hope that if he winds up there, he does get those minutes that's more than 6 minutes. Like, give him at least 10 or 11 minutes in this
No, in
game.
that game, he should honestly get 12, 13 minutes. I mean, it should be the kind of game where the Flyers, are having a good game. They're going to, take let some of the other guys take a few minutes off here and there. It should be that kind of game. Will it be? I don't know, but it should be.
The other aspect of it for me is that I also feel like this would be a good opportunity to give him some power play time, because I do think that he has been very successful on the power play when he's with Lehigh Valley. I think he has a level of creativity, and he's really smart out there on the power play that I think it could do the Flyers some good. And I would potentially think about sitting Atkinson and putting
Yeah, I would.
Lixell in instead.
I'm with you because a couple things. I mean, Atkinson's been pretty meh for a while, and the thing about Lixell is, yeah, you need to find out if he can contribute to you that way, because if you decide at some point, hey, he can't really help us on the power play, well then Lixell is not going to be the greatest 5-on-5 player. We know that. But if he can help you on the power play, then yes, he's going to be a guy worthy of having up. And they kind of need to find that out this year. And so I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I do think that you need to see him in all situations. And again, this is a really good opportunity to see what he can do. And so that's what I would do. But in the meantime, the Flyers did practice the power play a little bit, and we had Drysdale as the defenseman on one unit, and then Zamula and Sanheim out there on the other unit for your two different looks. And um, I think that Zamula, I think he can handle it by himself. I don't think he needs Sanheim
He
out
doesn't need a
there.
chaperone. No.
Yeah, yeah, that was the thing that stood out to me, and I was like, I don't know, man. Like that doesn't make sense to me when you could have an extra forward out there that could be creating more chances. And now Sanheim does have like a scoring touch and, an offensive
It shows up
instinct
once in a
to
while,
him, but
but it's infrequent.
mhm. Yeah, I think so. And so that kind of confuses me a little bit, but I do think it's absolutely worth trying different things, and maybe this is something they're trying,
I
and
mean,
we'll see if it's
it
successful.
can't get worse. So I'm with you. Try new
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
Try new things, and I think that is, the mantra of the Flyers power play here, and I think that it seems like they're gonna sit Staal for this game, based
Hmm.
on that, but, you never know. He was rotated in, so, um, it seems like he's gonna sit, which is fine. I just think that, giving Drysdale a little bit, bigger of a role as well, I think is important, because he's, I don't think he's struggled necessarily, but he also, like, they're still trying to find where he fits a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's been a little while, and they don't really have everything figured out for him yet. So it's close to struggling.
Yeah, I think so. In the meantime, on Monday night, kind of after we had finished recording, the Flyers held a season ticket holder town hall. And I think it's really great that they're continuing to do these things on such a regular basis
Yep.
in this season, and trying to continue that transparency, getting the management team out in front of fans and key, season ticket holders here. They also didn't have it at the rink in Voorhees or at the Wells Fargo Center. It was like in a ballroom at one of I think the casino up the street.
Okay.
So it was like nice, and it was more formal. All of this information courtesy of my mother, who's great. But
She's a good reporter. Yeah.
she really is. But she's like, oh yeah, we got fancy meals with real cutlery. It wasn't even plastic. So
Wow.
I know. Very exciting. But I think, she's been around this team, been a season ticket holder, and been getting tickets for, 40 years
Yeah.
or so, 40 plus years. And so she gets it. She understands the ebbs and flows of all of this. And she thought it was really interesting about, how they were framing the captaincy discussion,
Hmm.
that, it was just a matter of time, and both Danny and Keith wanted Couturier as the captain, but they needed just time for John Tortorella to get on board with it.
Hmm.
But that Torts pretty much ran the room last season, but now he's been slowly stepping back and stepping further back and letting the guys handle the locker room themselves, and this leadership group had emerged.
Yeah, I think. Look, I mean, I don't know what John would have possibly have against Sean Couturier. So I think it's kind of ludicrous to even like have the conversation with John's okay with it. Like, what wouldn't you be okay with? Name me a team in the league that wouldn't want a healthy Sean Couturier. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think, the way my mom phrased it, that he just hadn't seen him in action in the room and
Okay,
just needed to see
that's
it.
fair.
And that, how does he take criticism? Because
Okay,
that's part of being a captain, is being the guy that takes the brunt of the criticism from the
right.
coach.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
I, I think that's fair. They also said they're very comfortable with Sam Ersson as number one for the rest of the season, which of course they have to be.
Like, yeah,
Um,
I mean, there's not a lot of options out there.
Right, right. And that they are definitely going to be looking to draft a center, which I think is, it could be subterfuge. Don't get me wrong,
I don't
but
think it's
it,
subterfuge,
but if
and
it's true, I don't think that it's tough, because as we've been starting our, draft coverage, even though it's early days, where the Flyers are going to be is not the ideal place to be picking a center in this particular draft.
right. I mean, look. there'll be centers where they're picking and in the second round, but these are centers that are going to need some work. These are centers that are most likely 99% not top liners. I get it. It's nice to say, but again, this isn't the. There's a lot of centers in this draft, but it's not the strength of the draft, and so it's like,
Right.
I'm conflicted when I hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get that's what they need, but is this the place to find it right now? I don't know.
Right.
So the other thing is that, of course, they're working on the power play. Just like we said, they're trying new things. So that's good.
That's
Um,
good.
and they talked a bunch about the balance of the coaching staff looking in the immediate term in terms of the next game in front of them versus management looking 2 to 3 years ahead. And sometimes that causes, some conflict, but they are very good at working it out. They're a very good
Well,
unit in
today
terms
they
of
are.
balancing that.
When they get to the trade deadline, it's going to be worse. And then when they start off next season, it's going to be worse. Because, like we brought up, go listen to the last episode. And, as we talk about the cap calisthenics and what might happen and dead money and all those things, that's where there could be some, not yelling, but some, conversations that not both management and the coach are going to be on the same page for.
Yeah, yeah, will be interesting, and I hope they continue to do these town halls, and
Yeah,
keep
I think it's good
everybody
that
in
the
the loop.
fans get some insight as to what they're hoping to do and what their plan is because, they're the ones spending the money.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, the Flyers do indeed face the Chicago Blackhawks tonight, and we will be talking about them coming up next. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster, 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. They leverage over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, and Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of Locked On Flyers will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Go to Indeed.com/locked on right now to support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Flyers. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Get all the buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet, any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams like the 76ers with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
On tomorrow's show, we will, of course, recap the Flyers versus Blackhawks game that we're about to talk about. Plus, we're going to continue our draft eligible prospect series. So stay tuned for that. This is the first of two matchups against the Chicago Blackhawks. We have not seen them yet. The other game will be on March 30th. So a late in the season duo of games. And obviously, I think the biggest news about the Blackhawks is that Connor Bedard has been back for the last 3 games, which is good to see from a league perspective. And, we did see him in All-Star weekend helping to dish out those passes, which was really great. The most interesting aspect of Connor Bedard being back is that he has been part of the scoring for all but one of the goals that the Blackhawks have had in these 3 games. And I believe that was 6 of 7 goals that the Blackhawks have scored. He either scored or had an assist on, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, they are the kind of team where you do have to try and shut down Connor Bedard because they're not deep offensively. It's not to say they don't have players that can't score, but they're a weird offensive teams. At times they could be completely anemic. And so that's something where, look, if you want to get down the brass tacks, you kind of hope that it's just not going to be like a Peter Mrazek revenge tour. Because once in a while, Mrazek does have these weird, great games. And, you don't know if he's going to be in there, he could do that. So you have to sort of just be careful about that.
Yeah, I think so. And Lucas Reichel, who they had high hopes for on this team, they recently sent him down to the Ice Hogs to try and get him going again. And that's been a really difficult situation for him and for the team because I think they really thought that they would have sort of a 1-2 punch here and put them on separate lines, but that hasn't really worked out.
No, they still have time in the year, but it hasn't worked out, and a lot hasn't worked out there. And they're going to be one of the leaders, for Macklin Celebrini. But as far as this game goes, the Flyers need to actually just play their game. I don't want it to sound cliche, but they got to play their game. They got to limit mistakes, and they just have to get good goaltending. They have to get a better game out of Sam Ersson too.
Right. And I think that's pretty indicative of the Blackhawks' most recent game. So they lost 6-3 to Carolina. Now, Carolina is a very good team, right? And they led 5-1 through the first 40 minutes of the game. And then they put it on cruise control. And the Blackhawks got 2 goals back in the third
Right.
period. And then there was an empty netter. So it wound up being 6-3. And so this is a team like the Blackhawks, you cannot take your foot off the gas and let them back into it. And the Flyers are not the Carolina Hurricanes, let's be real.
No.
So,
No.
they're not going to have a 5-1 lead. Now they could, it's not likely. But if they have a 1 or 2 goal lead, like that, they absolutely cannot let up.
Right. I mean, you still have to worry about Seth Jones. There's still players to worry about there that you can't just sort of, play dumb or lazy. You gotta watch out. You don't want to put them on the power play because you don't want to see Connor Bedard on the power play. I mean, that's
No.
something where that could be a problem. Philip Kurashev is a really good player. I like him. He's
And he
fast. He's
has
got a good.
thrived with Bedard,
He
particularly.
has, and it's nice to see. Jason Dickinson's a very tough guy who will be around the net and everything. Nick Foligno, Nick Foligno is going to try and set a tone. Tyler Johnson can get some goals occasionally. So, and even we've seen Ryan Donato do very well in games against the Flyers. So this is one where it's like, yeah, just play your game. Don't get crazy. Don't and look, Korchinski hasn't done much this year, but you still have to, respect the fact that he's a really good skater and he could break out from the back end. As long as you keep those things sort of in check, they'll be fine. But, if they fall behind in a game like this, then you don't know what will happen because then you don't know if they'll start to struggle or what.
Right. And you mentioned Nick Foligno, and I think that he's somebody that can get under Travis Konechny's skin. And so if they're out there at the same time, that's something that I worry about a little bit. If he happens to be out there at the same time as Garnet Hathaway, I'm even more worried. But
No, but
I
I
think
mean,
that,
if Foligno takes Hathaway off the ice, who cares, right? But if he takes
right.
Konechny off the ice for a certain amount of time, then you care.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I'm just saying in terms of, giving that power play of Chicago with
No, that's
Bedard on
fair. I get that.
a chance. So I think that it's really important just to be disciplined because this is a team that will try and bait you because that's one of the few weapons that they have. And it's, you look up and down. It's not even that they're the worst team in the NHL because they are, but they just don't really even have any stats that you can like hang on to as like, oh, but they do this well. No, it's like it's nothing. And so, they have the second worst goals for and scoring chance percentage in the league. Only the Sharks are worse than them. It's a tough year for the Blackhawks overall, but they do have this look to the future with Bedard, and like you said, it's very likely that they're going to get a high pick, if not the top pick again this year, which infuriates me, but here we are.
No,
So,
I get it. And their top pairing, with Seth Jones, Alex Vlasic has had a great year. Like he was with the
mhm.
program, the NTDP, and he was like really like a just seemed like a guy. And maybe he would make it to the NHL, but he wasn't going to be, anything special. And he's had just a transformative year. So again, even he had, you have to sort of watch that top pairing will probably get quite a few minutes against the Flyers, and that might be the key matchup.
Yeah, I think so, and, we'll see how it goes, but I am definitely looking forward to the Flyers, getting one back and, kinda getting on more of a winning attitude, perspective here just as, again, the next couple of games after this one are gonna be real tough, and so it'd be, really good to come in to it on a good note.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you want to, prove that the Stadium Series is behind you, and sometimes that's hard to do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, y'all have some great questions out there about prospects and trade deadline and all of that, and we will get to them coming up next.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league like Locked On NHL. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe. Our mailbag begins with Chasbear 10. Question for the pod. Flyers are scouting the Manitoba Moose, and Shovel Day Off is looking for D. Do you see the Flyers making a play for Chaz Lucius or Brad Lambert?
Yeah, I think Lambert's an untouchable. Lucius, yeah, I could see that happening because I'm sure Brent likes him. He knows him. He's fast, but
Mhm.
he's had some injury problems. He really is a very good player with some elusiveness and great moves and great shot. And but this year he's only played 17 games for Manitoba. So that's the worry is he going to be an injury plagued player? So you have to kind of it's like a buyer beware kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I love Chaz Lucius when, we're talking about him for draft eligibility and all of that. But I do think it is a risk, like you said, with the injury history there. There was a discussion on our YouTube comments. John White was the original poster on a discussion about who to trade at deadline. Marc Staal and Cam Atkinson came up, but then the conversation continued. Is Atkinson even tradable at this point?
Yeah, I think with the right retention, you can get something for him. You're probably getting a third round pick unless he really picks it up. But you're only retaining for the end of the year, so I think there is a market for him. He's certainly worth more than Stahl, but again, Stahl's a defenseman. You probably can get a third to somewhere between a 3 and a 5 for him. Maybe it's a 6, but whatever. I mean, you trade them both. I mean, I know Flyers fans can be like, "Well, what about the playoffs?" But like right now, is are either of those guys really helping you for the playoffs anyhow?
Right. Well, Atkinson has one more year left on his
Oh,
deal,
that's
so
right. I
it's
forgot
got
about the other year, so that makes it a little harder.
yeah,
Yeah, he's not tradable with
yeah.
the other year. I'd forgotten that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That's really what it comes down to. There was another good discussion in the comments about lamenting playing well this year, so we can't get that high draft pick and get that elusive center that they were talking about, that we were discussing earlier in the show. But I think the ultimate question here is, would it have even been possible to tank given the talent on this team?
Yeah, you don't have to tank, but yes, it would be possible. All you had to do was start the year off with some younger talent. You didn't have to acquire all these players in the offseason, especially defensemen, and you would have a worse record, but guys would also be getting a lot more NHL time to be better in the future. So I think it would have been easy to do. I know I could have done it very easily, but that would have, you know, I would have had to tell John Tortorella, well, you're not getting two or three of these guys that you want.
Yeah, I think, without all of those signings, sure, maybe you could have done it, but I think given the personnel they got, once that season started and the way that Tortorella was gonna coach this team,
Yeah, then
I
it
think
wasn't gonna happen.
then it wasn't gonna happen. So I think, if they had done that strategically earlier, but I just don't think Tortorella would have been willing to go through with it, in those circumstances.
Can't
So,
argue with you there.
Chris wanted to know, anything with the players in development going on with the Royals that we should be aware of. From what I can see, it's kind of a drop off after the Phantoms.
I mean, I do like Nola Mayer. I won't give up on him because goalies sometimes go through these ups and downs. What is he, 22? Something like that, right? Maybe gonna be 23. So I still like him. I would like them to keep him in the system.
Yeah, I think that the only players that we've really discussed that have spent time with the Royals this year are Zayd Wisdom, who's been, struggling,
Yeah.
and Matt Brown, who is currently with the Phantoms. They have not sent him back down as of
No.
yet. And so hopefully he sticks with the Phantoms and gets a chance the rest of this season. And then we'll see what happens at camp the next year. But I think other than those guys, there's not anybody really worth discussing as a potential
No.
Flyers prospect there. Another prospect question, Matt wants to know, based on what we've seen from Alexis Gendron in the queue, was it worth sending him back to juniors?
I don't I he was gonna do that regardless. I would rather see him round out his game here. So I think this was the easy thing to do, to be honest, to send him back there. But no, I still don't think that was the right move.
Yeah, it's interesting because he had 17 games with the Phantoms where he had 5 goals and 2 assists. So 7 points in 17 games for your first
And
pro
not the
year.
best opportunities either, right?
Right, right. He was in and out of the lineup a little bit, and moved around the lineup. So he got opportunities, but it wasn't like things weren't being designed around him, let's say.
No.
But, with Drummondville, he's been there for 10 games, 10 goals, 6 assists for 16 points. So, again, he has more goals than assists, which is him, right? But,
Yeah.
16 points in 10 games, it sounds like a lot, but this is the cue.
It's easier
It's
to
easy to
score
do.
there.
Yeah, for a guy like him, it's nothing, and I just still feel really strongly they should have kept him with the
Yeah.
Phantoms. Well, that will do it for today's show. We will be back tomorrow with a recap of Flyers versus Blackhawks. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got questions you want answered on the show, you can send them in via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.